Hey, shalom everyone. As Yom Teruah is upon us, Feast of Trumpets, I've just kind of been thinking about a lot of things. Been thinking about streamlining, shaving down, and simplifying my walk. Just laying aside and setting aside traditions and customs and working out my own salvation with fear and trembling. You know, basically, what does the scriptures require of us for Yom Teruah, for the Feast of Trumpets? I mean, I know there's a lot of tradition behind it about being Rosh Hashanah, the new year, the inauguration of kings, the anniversary of creation, and so on and so forth. But nothing wrong with tradition, but sometimes it could really get in the way of one's personal relationship with God. So I've been thinking about simplifying things. And I've been thinking about this new Hebraic year and just being simple in my faith and simple in my walk. I've really been impressed to read over and over and over and over throughout this year the book of Deuteronomy and the Gospel of John. Why? Because it's the core. It's the core. Even Yeshua's favorite book to quote was Deuteronomy. Why? Because it was basically Leviticus for the everyday man. The book of Leviticus was written for priests, right? For the Kohen. Deuteronomy is basically Leviticus in Moses' own words, and he's making the Torah, the instructions of Adonai, applicable for everyone. And in John, Yochanan, we see Yeshua, our Messiah, walk Deuteronomy out before us. So that's one thing that I planned on doing. And I've been thinking about some verses that are going to guide me through this year. And I was thinking of Micah 6:8, which basically says, what does Adonai require? What does the Lord require of us? To act justly, to be merciful, and to walk humbly before our God. So before I do things, I'm going to do my very best to ask myself 3 questions before I do or say anything. Is it right? Is it just? Is it loving? Is it merciful? And is it done in humility? Is it humble? Is it right? Is it loving? Is it humble? Based on Micah 6:8. And that's going to dictate what I say and do. And then I think of Ecclesiastes 12:13. After all this philosophical discussion that Solomon goes through, he says, what's the conclusion of the matter? What's the core? What's the root of it all? He says basically to fear God and to keep his instructions, to reverentially fear God and to keep his Torah. So that's what I'm going to do. And Yeshua put it so succinctly. What's Torah all about? He basically boiled it down to 2 commandments. And he said the second is just as great as the first. He said, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength, and love your neighbor as yourself. So these are going to be my simple guides. I'm just going to lay tradition and custom and all the Hebrewiness and Jewiness. I'm going to lay those things aside this year and just to walk out my faith in simplicity. What's going to be my motto? What's going to be my theme? Walking in the footsteps of Yeshua HaMashiach by walking and following the Torah. So, as the sun sets and Yom Teruah begins, what am I going to do? I'm just going to blow that shofar. That's what it's all about. That's really the only command. I mean, besides sacrifice, and since there is no temple, we're not in Israel, there's no working Levitical priesthood in the temple in Israel, what's my sacrifice? Rav Shaul, the Apostle Paul, tells me, present yourselves, Romans 12:1 and 2, present yourselves as a living sacrifice. And I'm going to present myself to Hashem as that living sacrifice as I blow that shofar to inaugurate and call to remembrance Yom Teruah and to prepare myself for Sukkot and to prepare myself for Yom Kippur. So thanks for bearing with me. Love you guys. Shalom.